I don't even know what to say. I'm like so ready. I'm just like, we're finally here. We're at the end of 2020. I'm like, oh man, I just really wanted to get to this. Okay, let's get started. Oh boy. Welcome to Y.E.S, everybody. We finally made it to the end of 2020, and I'm so happy to be able to make this video reflect on the good music that I heard this year. It goes without saying, but I'm going to anyway. This has been a really crazy year, but thankfully, a lot of this music, for me personally, has kept me pretty sane overall, even though I'm still kind of crazy. Okay, so this list is pretty simple. We are going to talk about what I think are both the best albums of the year and a little bit of a combination of my favorites. Got like those two molded together, try to come up with a list where I'm like, this meets it. This is where Y.E.S meets albums of the year. Now remember, I am only including albums that I reviewed this year. If there is an album you think is awesome or amazing and should be on this list, but I didn't review it, leave it down below in the comments. I would still love to be able to get good recommendations for music from anyone. I'm totally on board with that. And if there's an album you didn't see on here that I did review, well, you know, difference of opinion. Regardless, I strongly urge all of you to give these albums a chance. And with that said, I'm going to start with a little honorable mention montage here. And right after that, we're going to go right into the top 10 albums of 2020. Kicking off the list with the number 10 spot here, we have Valley of Shadow by Pogo. Another moment where I was trying to decide what really needs to be in the 10th spot here, and Pogo came through for me. Although I was pretty shocked about what kind of album we got here at the time of the year that it was coming in, I thought it was pretty appropriate. It's basically what I think is a horror slash suspense slash thriller kind of album. It's not like ultra dark, but for Pogo's music, this is kind of a dark turn, per se. And it worked out really well. I would add a lot of these songs for Halloween, but despite that, I just really appreciate what Pogo was able to do, and I enjoyed the theme of this album quite a bit. The second Australian album to make this list is The Glow by DMAs. Now I went back to make sure I had the albums in the right spots on this list, and this is one where I really wanted to make sure that I knew I wanted to include this on this list, despite me giving it a yes, because a part of me really knows that not everybody is going to like this kind of album, but I really do. And listening to it again from beginning to end, I was like, you know, I'm confident. I'm confident that this album deserves to be here. I will say, I think I enjoy this album more from beginning to end. If I put it in a shuffle, I'm not really as invested in the mood, with the exception of a few songs in here. But regardless of that personal sentiment, I truly believe that the rest of you who may not have listened to this album this year should give it a shot. Cassidy Pope lands the 8th spot here with her album Rise and Shine. I'm actually very happy that this album is right here because I genuinely was not sure if I was going to enjoy the album just from the first impression of seeing that it would be slightly shorter than the rest of the albums I would listen to this year. But thank heavens that was not the case. Thankfully it's longer than an EP, but it packs the right kind of punch to be the album that it is. In a year where I was listening to more country music than usual, Cassidy's voice is one that is gripping me more and more as I continue to listen to her. Taylor Swift's Folklore makes my number 7 spot. This is a huge surprise for me. Now, why would you say that, Garrett? Well, if you followed my listings last year, you would know I really did not like Lover. And I know probably in the past somewhere I was internally rolling my eyes at the idea. Come on, Taylor, take some time to craft your album. I feel like I was proved wrong big time with this album. I just can't help but love the ambience that I'm transported to when listening to this album. It really shocked me. And I also think it's refreshing to see Taylor step away a little bit from the pop realm, despite this not being like a truly pure folk album. She's got little hints in there, but I would still regard this as a great folk album nonetheless. Landing at number 6, we got Therapy Sessions by David Archuleta. Firstly, I want to thank everyone who watched that review and commented on it. That video took off. I'm so thankful for everyone who watched it and everyone who gave their input. David, I know you had your birthday recently. You turned 30. Welcome to the 30s club, bro. But you have a lot of loyal fans out there, and you should be proud of not just your fans for their loyalty to you, but for this album. This is a wonderful, terrific album, and thank you for being willing to be vulnerable enough to share so much with us. And also for allowing a couple of interesting moments in your lyrics where you just kind of made it seem like, hey, this guy's human too. He's like one of us, because I can relate to those things in the album. You really did good, David. Thank you very much. Archies for life! Yep. I have a Christmas album once again in my top 10. The Christmas Album by Leslie Odom Jr. Man, what can I say? I'm so thankful for a fresh take on so many of the Christmas carols included in here, and for including a couple of other holiday gems in here that kind of just added some additional texture to a holiday album. And I was really wanting to find a Christmas album that I could strongly recommend, and this is the one that landed super well for me, and I have to include it here on this list. Landing at number 4 is Thundercats' It Is What It Is. And that title can speak for itself. It is what it is. I know that this is on the radar for some people out there, but I would strongly encourage other people to give this a shot, because I don't know if it's on enough people's lists out there. I really dig this album. And re-listening to the whole thing again recently, I was just like, man, do I really love this groove. There's so many artists that just don't get it anymore, and man, the world needed this kind of album in order for us to remember this is what like funk and R&B and just groovy stuff is supposed to all be like. Go check it out right now if you haven't. Everything Fades to Blue is the 3rd album part of this compilation that Sleepy Fish has created, and it lands the number 3 spot right here on my favorite albums list. Now, there was a part of me that really wanted to just give it a tie with this album and his other album released this year, Beneath Your Waves, but I decided to just use that as an honorable mention just because I really wanted to emphasize how much I loved so many of the songs on this album. While Beneath Your Waves, I think, is more consistent in its idea, this one provides the right kind of variety that seems to go in a couple different directions, but the more I listened to it, the more I could imagine different scenarios within that same atmosphere that this album and collection of albums transports me to. If you need something relaxing, something to release all the pressure out, take down a few notches out of the stress of life, this album will do that for you. The Slow Rush by Tame Impala makes it at the number 2 spot. I'm really happy that this album came out as early as it did in the year because I've just replayed so many songs from this album throughout the year, and it has just allowed me to enjoy life so much more because of it. Whether it gets me on my feet to just groove and dance around a little bit, or to be able to just have something to be able to be like, yeah, all right, someone knows music still. I'm really happy about that. And to be honest, I almost made this album number 1, despite not it even being a Y.E.S album. But regardless of that, I love this album. I love it, love it, love it so much. But after re-listening to all the albums that I have on this list, in the end, I knew which one needed to be number 1. And that one special album is What's Your Pleasure by Jessie Ware. She took care of this thing so well. Her vocals are beautiful, the instrumentation is terrific, and it varies so much in this album. What this comes down to is this album feels like an artist who has completed the task of bringing us an excellent, awesome, great, brilliant album. It just was instant. I knew from the beginning of the album going until the end that this was superior to so much other music that I listened to this year. The whole thing, the whole package, this package deal we're getting here, you should want an album like this. Beginning to end, great. This is the Y.E.S album of 2020. I have now shared this list with you, the individual, the internet, groups of music crazy people like me who just want to know what is great out there and who can recognize it. I have this and all other albums that I have on this list. Go check them out. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to follow me in my social media links down in the description below, and be sure to leave a like for the video as well as a comment down below if you want to engage with me. And remember, if you want to discover, promote, and review the best in entertainment, be sure to subscribe to this channel so you can get that Y.E.S in your life. See you next time. 2020's over! Attention! A toast to Jessie Ware. Thank you for the wonderful album that you have brought into 2020. And thank you to all of you who have won a spot on this list. It is much appreciated. Wonderful.